when you do the marketing for this episode, I want this to be the boomerang that you use on Instagram.
Yes. Great. You know what?
Perfect.
There you go. I'm going to stop the recording there now.
Yeah.
What's that movie? Is it ahead? Don't ask Alenka, she'll say, I haven't seen it.
Welcome to the Haven't Seen It podcast. This is a podcast where we bring people on the show and we get them really drunk and they tell me about a movie that I've never seen before. I'm Alenka Zach.
And I'm Will.
And we're here today talking about a sick-ass movie with a sick-ass boy.
Award-winning Indigenous singer-songwriter, my cousin, Cale Crowe.
What it is, what it do, all those things.
Related to Russell Crowe, I hear.
Yeah, absolutely. And Cheryl.
Yeah.
We're all one secret underground Illuminati.
And the Crow.
I knew it.
Yeah. Including Jason Momoa.
Yeah.
What's the Crow? What is that? Who is that?
Oh, you'll have to have
Honestly,
that.
I could see the Jason Momoa thing. I think it's just because you have like the dark hair and eyeballs.
I
and it
am going to
looks
take
like
that compliment and float 6 feet off the ground for the rest of the night.
perfect.
Anyway. But yeah, that'll have to be another episode if you're not familiar with the Crow.
No, I'm not. So we'll have to flop
There it
that
is.
down.
Oh, yeah.
There it is.
I don't think
There
it's on
it
our
is.
list. I got to write that
Yeah.
down.
Put it
I
on
know.
the schedule.
On the sketch.
Well, speaking of the list, what are we talking about, Alenka?
We're talking about Arrival.
Good.
Ooh, was that a sound effect from
Ooh.
the movie? Or is that also something you add into your
No, a sound effect from
music?
the movie would be like,
Dude, have you ever actually like looked up how they made the sound effects for this movie?
No, I have
Because
not,
they are
actually.
it's actually such a trip. Like
It's Bill Hader, right? It's
A
Bill
lot of
Hader
folly.
making this.
Stop.
Yeah.
Is he in this
Yeah.
movie?
No,
Why did you say him?
Absolutely.
because he made the sound effects for BB-8 in Star Wars.
Yes. That is
Oh.
true.
I didn't know that. Didn't know.
It's shocking how much of that movie is like actually practical.
Yeah, I know.
But anyway, that's not here or there.
So
We're
how
not
did they make
arriving
the
at
sound
point.
effects?
It's all
Arrive.
like it's all I don't actually know it off the top of my head, but it's like it's a mixture of like animals and things like that. Like you look at like deep sea creatures and the sounds that they make because the movie is pertaining to these sort of sea creature like animals, these
Really?
aliens.
Mm.
And yeah, so
Oh.
it's so when you listen to them, it's like, first of all, it's creepy as hell the first time you hear it, but then on top of that, it's like you actually like it all, you almost feel like you're underwater when you listen to it.
Ooh,
I don't know if
yucky.
that's the impression you got, Will, but
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Listen, I have a deep fear of most large bodies of water. Lakes or larger.
Yeah.
Puddles I'm fine with, but it is 100% because I cannot see what's going
that
on
is absolutely
in the bottom.
fear. That's
Mhm.
100% the fear.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I have learned. So I'll go out for a walk with the dog in this like forest or whatever, and I realized like back in the day, my hyperactive imagination would be like, "Ooh, a magical forest." Now it's like, "Holy fuck, some crazy ninja motherfucker's gonna come and kill me." Like after we start walking for a little bit, so you can only imagine what I'm thinking about when I pass a body of water.
Is there a high percentage of ninja killings in Woodstock?
I was gonna say I would think more like a mutated hillbilly,
Yeah,
like at least around here, wearing
Oh,
only
yuck.
overalls, no
Oh,
shirt,
God.
covered in blood.
So that's
Yeah.
from another movie, is it not? The Hills Have
Probably.
Eyes.
Oh yeah, we were just
Mm.
talking about this.
Yeah, we
before.
were.
That's probably why
So
it's in my
another one
head.
that I haven't seen, but I've obviously heard a little bit about.
Mm,
Oh,
you know a
so
little
I could
bit
add
about
that
it.
to the list. Yeah,
Well, speaking of movies you haven't seen, we're talking about this movie,
Yeah.
Arrival, and Cale. Why do you want to talk about this movie?
I
oh yeah.
absolutely love this movie. This movie, I don't know. It like blew my mind when I first saw it. And I'm not that smart a dude. Like, let me be very upfront about this. I am not a very smart person, but like, there's just something about, there are movies, and I don't know if you guys experience this, but there are movies out there that just they make you feel like you're smarter than you are when
Oh.
you're done watching them, because
Cool.
they explain. So like, I don't know, the first time I saw the movie 21 with with like Kevin Spacey and like he's
Jim
like
Sturgis.
and he's like counting
No,
cards and
not
stuff.
a
I was like, man, I feel more clever having watched this, and I
Yeah.
still don't know how to count cards.
Yeah.
But that's not the point.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
The point is like, and like Interstellar, for example, is kind of the opposite of that to me,
Mhm.
where it's like, I know less about space travel having seen that than I did when I started the movie.
Yes, that's
Hmm.
true.
Right. So the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, which is the
Huh.
idea that language determines your perception of the universe, basically, is, hang on, I'm gonna look it up. I'm looking things up on
What
right
does
here
this
live.
mean?
This is in reference to the movie. We'll get
This
to
is,
Oh, it is?
So we will
Yeah,
come
yeah.
around. We will come around to this. Linguistic relativity is the actual term. It's the idea that the structure of a language affects the speaker's worldview or cognition, which means that your language determines how you think. So, for example, think about how an animal would think versus how we think. Think of how a bird would think versus how an ant would think. Think of
We're
how
probably
a
a
squid
lot
would think.
less efficient.
Yeah,
an animal.
I mean, I feel like their thought is probably more instinctual, and
Mhm.
you know, they're able to get through things a lot faster and make better
Yeah.
decisions than us. Like, for example, me deciding to put as much rum in this coffee.
It's
is like-
almost gone.
It is almost gone.
Wow.
I'm really plowing through it here.
Hope you made a big pot.
Big old pot.
I made a single cup, but I will go back for more rum. So anyway, that is like the like, I don't know. I don't know if I would call it the thesis of this movie, but I learned about it when I was in college, and it was always something that I was like, man, that doesn't make any sense. And then this movie made it make sense to me.
Huh. Interesting.
And so, yeah, it was just sort of this weird like threshold moment where I was just like, okay, I didn't get it, and now I get it. So,
Cool.
but on top of that, who doesn't
Educational.
love aliens? Like,
yeah, they're
I know.
freaky.
I have to say, I love sci-fi in general. I love Star Wars, and I love the
I also
Avengers
love
and
Star
the superhero
Wars.
stuff. But I also love sci-fi movies that are like hyper kind of realistic. Like, what
Yes.
if this actually happened?
Well, and
kind of movie.
Like it could happen.
And for
Yeah.
me, this movie was like, you know, I spent the past, what has it been, like 12 years, 13 years watching Marvel movies where they're in space and the only aliens that they ever meet look exactly like us.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And here comes this movie in, what did this movie come out in?
2015?
15, yeah.
16.
Wow.
16. And the aliens do not look anything like us. They do
No.
look like
Wow.
they like. That's the other thing, is that
Creatures.
aliens often mimic life that we already know, because how else would we figure out
Create.
how
Mhm.
to create them in our
something.
imagination, right? That's
Mm.
the thing, is like a lot of scientists in like the real world who talk about this stuff, they're like, well, if we ever meet aliens, we're not going to actually even, we might not even be able to perceive them properly,
Hmm.
because they will be something that our brains haven't made up.
Yeah.
So they will like violate every sort of like view
Law of
that we have
nature.
of the world. You know what I mean?
Isn't there some sort of ex-CIA agent that's released this information that's like the guy?
Yeah, but COVID happened, and so we don't care.
I still am not
Everything's on the
educated
back
on what
burner
was
now.
released about COVID. I
Like
still
back
don't
in
know. I don't know.
There was like a bunch of like classified
I
documents.
know that
they
NASA
made
like
available to the
confirmed
public.
some aliens or some
Yeah.
shit.
And everyone's like, dude, we're trying to stay inside, and we're trying to keep ourselves from losing it.
Because we got
Go away
Tiger
with
King to
this.
watch.
Yeah, we've got more Tiger King. We got to watch Joel McHale give the most cringy interview I've ever seen in my entire life.
I did not watch that
Oh
episode.
my god.
Alenka, please, if you will, tell us what, if anything, you know about this movie.
Aliens, baby.
Yeah.
Maybe this is the trailer that I recall seeing, but like
Do you know
they
anybody
definitely
who's in the
touched
movie?
down. Oh no.
No.
No, the aliens touch down at a certain point, or perhaps I'm confusing this with another movie that I've seen, and they nest there for a while. And are people boarding this?
Yep.
Ship?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep.
There
You're
you
on
go.
it.
Yeah. That's all I know.
That's all.
That's it.
Okay.
Because
They
they're
nest
like
and
they're
they board.
nesting there, and like I guess like they're not like invading or anything. They're just hanging out, and they're trying to like
Yeah,
communicate
they're
with
just
them.
chilling. Yeah.
You know how you do.
Oh yeah.
You know, when you visit other
That's
planets.
all I know. That's
Wow.
what it sounds like to talk to an alien. Welcome.
That's exactly what they sound like.
Yeah. That's
Underwater. It
Roll
was
credits.
underwater
Roll
sounding.
I
credits.
always
We
knew you were
finished
an
the-
alien,
sorry.
Alenka.
Oh, baby. I might be.
the plot twist.
Well, we're gonna check ourselves when we drink today's
Oh,
drink.
yeah.
It's a doozy.
And I am almost done.
Kale's almost done.
Yeah, Kale's almost
Me
done
too,
his
actually.
first glass.
I told you I was in trouble.
Yeah, you were. So we're drinking what I'm going to call coffee with aliens.
I don't get it.
Which is a quote from the movie, and
Which even
it
I
is-
didn't know.
Yeah,
Whoa.
it is a black coffee with Kraken rum. Mix it however
Coffee
you
with
want,
aliens.
half and half, 3/4 rum, 1/4 coffee, or the opposite way. Whatever you feel
Yeah.
like is going to get you through the day.
When I was in college, I
also-
used to drink Dr. Zoidberg's.
What is
And they-
that?
It's Kraken rum and Dr. Pepper.
Whoa, that would
Mm.
actually be good.
It's
I think
so
that'd be
good.
good.
Well, speaking of, I picked Kraken rum because octopuses are the closest thing to 7
Heptapods.
limbs. Heptapods.
Cephalopods, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
Septapods?
Heptapods is what they're
heptapods.
Oh,
called
this
in
is
the
a-
movie.
Because Hep
Oh, this is the one where in the trailer there's glass or something, right? And this thing goes
Mm.
kaboom.
Oh,
Yeah,
Yeah.
The squid, you know, squid's hand is like-
That is octopusy like, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is it a squid?
yeah,
It's like something like that.
Well, this ain't the trailer, folks.
Oh,
This is the
boy.
whole
boy.
damn movie.
we're getting into it.
Yeah.
The
Let's
spirit
do it.
fingers that you did when you said that.
Strap on your helmets.
What? I
Strap
don't
in,
think-
I think is what he meant to say.
Strap in. Strap
That's
in.
right. I knew it sounded so weird. How much Kraken has Will had?
Not too much.
So, folks, strap on
Yeah.
and hold on to something because we are
Grab
going
that
in.
Pillow tight.
Bite down
Yeah.
because we're talking Arrival. Cale,
Yeah.
how does this movie start?
How does this movie start? Okay, so the movie starts. I don't think there's like a title like card or anything like that, right? There's no text at the beginning.
No, I
Like
think
shot
it's like
for
a
shot, it's
like
not-
a halfway through the
yeah,
opening
so
type.
so the
thing.
idea is it starts with Amy Adams, which
Oh, that's the lady, eh?
yeah.
yeah,
I know her.
name another movie she's been in.
I don't know.
All right,
Mad Men,
anyway,
maybe? I don't know.
I would have accepted Man of Steel, but
I have not seen that.
no, you're not missing anything.
Yeah, I didn't.
So it
Oh.
starts out with her, and she's talking to. I always thought it was her mom that she's talking to, but it's unimportant. And
Well,
while
she's sort
talking,
of talking. She's like
she's like on the
monologuing.
phone, right?
No,
I
that's
thought
not
she
how
was.
it starts.
Oh no,
No.
she's talking to
It's-
like
She's talking to the audience. It's a monologue,
right.
and it's
Yeah,
kind
yeah,
of
yeah.
memories. It's showing memories of her life, or kind of a montage.
Yeah, so she's having these like there's like a montage of memories where it's like her daughter's name is Hannah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's like you get to see moments from like her birth, some of her younger years where she's like pretending to be a cowboy and Amy Adams is like playing along with it. And then they're in a hospital and she's asking this nurse a bunch of questions. And then all of a sudden it just cuts to her kissing the forehead of her dead daughter in a hospital. And the idea is basically that she died of like a very rare,
like a cancer, or
like a
something.
cancer or like an immunity or immunodeficiency sort of thing. They don't
Yeah.
really specify.
Sad. Do you
Um,
cry in that instant? Like, is it quite emotional?
It's
Or
sad.
not
I
so
wouldn't say
much.
you cry, but
I mean,
I don't
Up was sadder. But
Up was
Okay.
definitely like yeah. I feel like Up is the standard.
yeah,
Nothing
for
will ever
sadness,
beat
for
the
opening,
opening
killing
of
off
Up.
of people.
Yeah, Um,
Yeah.
between that and maybe I don't know.
Mhm.
I got kind of emotional during like the opening of Guardians of the Galaxy myself, but just
I've
'cause
seen
Well,
the
that's pretty
first one, but
emotional.
I don't remember how that one starts. But we're
It
talking
starts
about
with
Arrival.
Rick,
yeah.
Don't worry.
anyway. And so then it cuts to, so it turns out that Amy Adams, aka Louise, she's a language professor, so she teaches at a university, and she begins this lecture in her class, and nobody is paying attention. Everyone's like getting alerts on their phone and their laptops and stuff, and
And I will point out, like, she kind of looks run down. She does look like kind of like a broken woman.
yeah,
in this.
she's definitely like she's been
Yeah.
through some
Is
shit.
this supposed to be like shortly after her daughter dies, or is this
So
years
we'll
after?
get to that.
We'll get to that.
Yeah.
So anyway, she's like trying to get everyone's attention, and they're like, "Hey, you need to turn the news on."
Oh
Basically,
shit!
so she pulls up the projector or whatever and turns on the news, and it turns out that 12 alien crafts have landed in completely random locations.
And I love
across the
this
entire
shot.
planet.
So she opens up so in like lecture halls, they have sometimes TVs behind them. They can like,
Oh yeah,
pull
there's
open.
like a dry erase board or like a
Yeah.
chalkboard or something.
So she pulls it aside, but the shot is just her, and it's like the TV
Yeah,
is going,
so- yeah,
and you
so
just hear
you are
newscasters
you are
establishing
the TV,
what's going on.
basically.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
cool.
you never actually see what this ship looks like. yet.
Oh,
I forget all the time
Oh.
that you're into like the cinematography stuff.
Oh yeah,
Well,
I just
for
like
sure.
really
That's
like
yeah,
that storytelling.
for
element.
sure.
God, you're such
so-
a cine snob.
A cinephile.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
she so she's watching the news, and the whole world is like going crazy because what the
Freaking out.
hell? And then a few days go by and nothing has happened. You know, all the world's militaries are sort of camping out around the crafts, and
Does life just kind of go on pause? Like, are
Kind
people
of,
still
yeah,
like going
they-
to work and stuff?
people are so they
I
show
got
in
major
some of
COVID vibes when I watched
Yeah.
these opening
Yeah?
scenes of like,
yeah,
'cause
actually,
of- yeah.
that does make sense.
yeah,
In the some of the shots that they show on the news, some of the countries where the aliens have landed are starting to like riot and rebel against their governments because they're like, God isn't real, and like, you know, like why should we listen to anything if, you know, the end is near, because people think it's the end times,
Okay.
basically, right? So like maybe a day or two goes by, enter Forrest Whitaker, who
Uh-uh.
plays
Mm.
Colonel Weber. He comes
Gotta
into
Google.
her office one day and says that he needs to hire her to make an attempt to communicate with their aliens, which have landed in Montana,
Why
Yeah.
her?
because she's
well,
apparently
so
yeah. Go ahead. Will.
she's one of the top linguists, but also they establish that she helped them translate some Farsi translations, which is kind of like a Middle East language. They're trying to like find out messages from some insurgents. So she already has like top secret clearance,
Okay.
and she's one of the
Right,
best.
yeah,
So
yeah,
because her clearance, she still has top secret clearance for like 3 years after she did these earlier translations.
Because she like
they
saved a
come to
bunch of
her.
people's lives, I guess, right?
Yeah, well,
What
she
a
makes the point. She's
frickin'
like,
whatever,
Forrest Whitaker's
show
like, you made
off.
quick work of those Farsi translations, and then
And
she goes,
says
you made
yeah.
quick work of those insurgents, meaning
Yeah.
like they killed these people that she
she helped
she translated
like,
their
rat them out
messages.
or blow their cover,
Yeah.
basically.
Oh.
So he's like, look, man, I need you to come back onto the job, like an old Western movie.
yeah,
And she's
like
like,
an
I
action
can't.
movie, like
I can't.
I
I'm
gave-
retired.
yeah, I gave that shit up.
That's funny.
I left
That seems
life
like
a
an
long time
old
ago.
like hitman job.
But
That's
you,
what it
but you
sounds
totally,
like.
but you totally get that vibe though, right? Because
Yeah.
because it shows like her daughter dying at the beginning, and then it's like
Mhm.
I left that life a long time ago, and I'm a broken woman.
Yeah,
Um,
basically.
Mhm.
I want
So
someone
she
to
kind
clip
of
that audio.
declines. She declines, or at least doesn't provide enough. I guess like
She
he doesn't.
so-
he doesn't like believe in her in that meeting.
There's the moment where he hands her the cell phone, right? And he's like, can you make anything of this? And then they play the sound of them trying to talk to the aliens, and it's this weird like, I'm not gonna beatbox try and recreate it
It's
on
like,
your thing.
Well, you should.
Yeah, and
It's
there's
like
like
a
a bunch
big
of
burp.
like weird like
Yeah,
like it's super
It
weird.
sounds super scary.
And
It is.
and she's like, well, like I'm not hearing phrases, I'm not hearing like, she's like, I'm not hearing anything that isn't like an animal sound, basically. And he's
And
like,
he says the dumbest line was like, well, you translated those Farsis, and he's like, yeah, because I knew the language.
yeah, basically, like you're talking about coming up
Hmm.
with something that has never existed in
Mm,
human
mhm.
history before, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So then he basically goes to leave, and
It would probably make more sense for them to hire like an animal specialist or something. Don't
I
you think?
guess, well, and yeah, like,
Probably.
I made the comparison earlier to like deep sea life, which I guess
Yeah.
that would make sense. You know, you think of like
Mhm.
singing whales and stuff.
Mhm.
But so he goes to leave, and
Nope.
he's like, we're going to hire this other person.
Mhm.
And she's like, okay, when you go to hire him, ask him what the word for war is in Sanskrit. Ask him what the word for war in Sanskrit translates to. And
Mhm.
he goes away, and then like in the middle of the night, a helicopter lands in her like front yard. And
She also lives in like a pretty
she lives
sick
in like
house
this
on
like
the lake.
lavish. Yeah,
It's
she
like
lives
glass,
in like
all glass.
and they don't
She's
really
hooked up.
explain this, but yeah, like it's like
Where does she? What
completely
state?
isolated. I don't think they tell
I
that
don't-
either.
I don't
Oh.
know what state
Most
she's
of the
in.
movie
You
happens
know,
in
real
Montana.
estate's pretty cheap.
Yeah, it's in Montana. Most of the
over
movie.
there.
Yeah, most of
Yeah.
the movie happens in Montana, but then he comes back and he's like, okay, what does the Sanskrit word for war translate to? And it's a desire for more cows is
Huh?
the translation.
the actual
in
translation,
Sanskrit,
yeah.
the translation for the word war is a desire for more cows. So when you go to war, the idea is you're just going to war so that you can have more of something, right?
Okay.
Like
Mhm.
Yeah.
if you bomb some country in the Middle East for oil,
It's for more cows.
yeah, but they're in Sanskrit, cows are like the most important thing, right? Like
Okay.
Mhm.
like I'm assuming that's where the logic came from when they created the language. I don't fucking know. But
Okay.
anyway,
Yeah.
You're not
So,
a fucking linguist.
I'm not
yeah,
a linguist
I'm just
specialist.
I'm just a guy who thought he was smarter after watching a movie. But anyway, so they're like, okay, we really need you, and she's like, okay, fine, I'll go. And
Yeah, she's like, give me 20 minutes. And he's
yeah,
like, you got 10.
you got 10. And
Oh,
then-
she could have.
and then
20.
for like a second, both of his eyes looked at her at exactly the same time, and then he walked away. But
What versus one eye looking to the left and the other looking
have
at
you
her?
ever looked at Forrest Whitaker?
Oh, that was rude. But yeah, I see what you're saying.
But
I see what you're saying.
So
He's a
and-
beloved actor. He just
he
has.
is. Oh, I love
got a
Forrest
lazy eye.
Whitaker.
He does
And-
have a
and
lazy
in this
eye.
movie. I love him. But
So
anyway,
for a second, he was extremely focused.
he was heated.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway,
Yeah.
when she
Okay.
So they
wanted
get
that
on the
extra 10 minutes,
helicopter. Yeah, they get on the
Yeah.
helicopter, and we're introduced to the other kind of main character, Ian Donnelly, played by Jeremy Renner.
Quick question:
Hey.
does it say anything about her daughter's father
no,
No, not
at
yet.
all?
no,
Oh.
No.
it does say it eventually, but we'll get there.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll get there.
But I
Fine.
like
Your
where
voice
your
is there, I
head's
like
at. I like that
Yeah,
you're
it's it.
thinking.
Hey,
So Ian Donnelly is he's a biological.
Let's see.
No,
He's a
theoretical
theoretical
physicist.
physicist. Yeah,
Yeah,
which is
the
just a
most
bunch of
theorizes
hooey. Am I right?
abstract physicist.
It's it's the most abstract.
It's just a guy that
job
thinks
name in the
about
world.
stuff.
Yeah.
So he
So-
comes up with ideas for how the universe works, basically, because
Mhm.
they're trying to. His whole job, at least to my understanding, and maybe you can correct me, Will, if I'm wrong, but the whole idea behind hiring him is that they're trying to figure out where they came from, why they're
Yeah.
there, like
Mhm.
how they got there, sort of
Yeah.
thing.
Which
Well-
comes to the name of the drink. So in the helicopter, Ian's like, I've got a list of questions already made up. Why are you here? What's your purpose? Are there more like you? What else is going on? And Louise is just like, how about we just talk to them first?
Yeah,
And, which is kind of like, he's asking way too many complex questions. So Forrest Whitaker is just
Not that
like,
complicated.
and that's why you're both on board. And then Ian kind of laughs and he goes, huh.
I knew.
No, and then
the
he
right
goes, I'll
team.
make the coffee. And then Ian Donnelly goes, huh, coffee with aliens.
and
Oh,
to
and
that,
Cale
no,
finished
Cale
his
just
drink.
finishes. But also, like humans have literally put out maps and directions for other life to reach Earth. So is it really all that shocking? How did you find us? We only left a pictograph on how to get here.
You know what's funny? Okay, so it's sort of a sad example of this, but when Chester Bennington died from Lincoln Park,
Okay.
Or like when who is the example? Prince. I use this
Okay.
example when Prince died, is that the way radio signal works is that once it's out in the air, it never stops traveling. It never like there's nothing you can do to stop it. Like there's no energy, like there's no force that humans in our existence have to stop it. So when
Then the
Prince is
signal doesn't
played-
weaken at all.
No, as long
At
as
all.
there's something strong enough to catch it.
Interesting.
So when Prince, for example, or David Bowie or Michael Jackson are played on the radio, they are played forever. And so somewhere out there in the vastness of the universe, a machine could technically, in theory, pick up the very first recordings of David Bowie, Michael Jackson, Prince, literally any musician that does not exist anymore in our plane of reality. And
That'd
so
be cool.
and so in my mind, in that way, they live forever. So not to make it all sad or anything like that.
So any musician on the radio could live forever.
You're a poet.
Just get a few more of these into me. So anyway,
Well, yeah, they arrive at the Montana site, and now so there's
Sweet,
only
did
one
they?
site in the States. So
Somehow.
they've landed in Montana, and
an
then there's
American
11
movie and only
Yeah.
one alien site in America.
exactly,
Whoa.
and there's 11 others all over the globe in certain points.
Yes.
And this shot is, I love this shot in
Which
this
one?
movie. Well, just kind of
This one.
It's an aerial shot, basically from the helicopter's point of view,
With like
and
the fog.
yeah, they're in a
Yes.
valley, so it's landed in this valley in Montana, and there's rolling fog coming.
So
off
if you've
the
seen the
hills.
trailer for this, you know what shot he's like. You've probably
Yeah.
I
seen the
don't
shot that
really,
he's talking
though.
about. But
I
it's
might
like-
have, but it's lost.
It's like
in
a
my
giant,
memory.
and they don't really explain it, and it doesn't look like a natural thing. I don't know. Maybe I don't know enough about weather patterns.
it
or
does-
anything
but
like
I-
that.
Maybe
That's
I've
a
just
real-
never seen
I'm not a
fog before.
meteorologist either.
Yeah. I believe it's a real shot, and then obviously the giant spaceship, which is
Which
kind of
just
like
looks
this
like a big black lima
black
bean.
stone. Yeah, lima bean.
Yeah.
Like it looks
Yeah.
like
Kinda
a kidney
curved.
bean sort of shape.
What?
Yeah.
And it's
Really?
floating. It's not landed. It's like
Oh.
kind of floating, just like maybe like 100
20
feet off the ground.
Yeah, not
20
even
feet.
like
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
it's super. It's like they.
How do
and
they get on it?
So
Well,
Did
they-
the door open? What
So
the-
so they explain when they get to the base that every
18
think
hours.
18 hours,
Mhm.
a small amount of the bottom of the ship opens up and allows people to go in. And
Interesting.
so there's a few moments where they're setting up in base and establishing like they have to take a bunch of booster shots, and a bunch of like vaccines that, you know, your tetanus, your polio, your whatever.
Mhm. Right in the ass.
Yeah,
Oh?
basically. Well, that's the director's cut, I think. That they
Aw.
get
It's the
into that.
strap-on cut. Yeah.
Damn it. Well,
Where part of the poster is pulled away and you can just see Will's face under there.
Mm.
But anyway, so they're you know, they do a bit of briefing or whatever, and so they go up into the base, and it's like they take a truck from the base to underneath the pod or whatever, and they have like one of those, like, what do you call them?
It's like a lift.
A scissor lift, yeah.
Scissor lift, yeah.
And they all get in these like giant orange like hazmat suits.
Mhm.
And
Getting COVID vibes still, you know.
yeah, super COVID vibes. Like everyone's worried about like getting infected with like some alien
Because they don't
disease
know
or whatever,
what's in
right?
the ship.
Because this
It's
is
just
the thing. Like
precaution.
if an
Uh-huh.
like think about like missionaries going to like
Going to
untouched
space.
civilizations or whatever
Yeah,
in
yeah.
the jungle.
Yeah.
Like they don't have the vaccines that we've all grown up getting. Like, you know,
Mhm.
you walk in there and you are covered in disease, right? So
Interesting.
think of an alien coming here. Like the
Mm.
first thing you want to worry about is getting infected with something. But anyway,
Yeah.
so
And they
go
That
theorize,
makes
so
sense.
basically they theorize 18 hours is so that it's because the aliens are used to a different atmosphere, and so they have to,
well, and they're probably from a different planet
yeah.
because like
So-
they're
Probably.
Yeah.
sorry,
So
they're
it takes a
probably
They
little
might
while.
be from
they
a
might be
different
from a different
planet.
planet. What I meant to say,
I'm not sure though.
what I meant to say after this was that they are probably from a planet that is further away from its nearest sun, and so their
Mhm.
days are probably a different length.
16
of time.
hours.
Yeah, something like
Yeah.
that.
Oh.
And also,
how long is the bottom open
time
for?
the time it takes to
I
like
think what are
fill the chamber up with like regular human oxygen for them to go in.
they're only
Yeah.
in there for
Oh.
like a certain amount of time. Like the pod opens and then
It's like
they
2 to 4 hours. I don't even know how long.
I
they're
can't
in there
remember
for,
how
really.
much they say it is, but it's not a long time. But it's
No.
and at the end of it, they'll just go away, and then the oxygen will leave. So when they go in, the gravity is different as well.
Mhm.
So you
Hmm.
go in, and there's just one singular hallway straight above them, and then when they get thrown up into the air, they land on one of the walls, and that's now their ground. And they
Yeah.
take
what?
gravity.
That's cool.
And this is like one of the most barbaric, but like it's such a small detail. They take a living bird
No.
in a cage
No.
into this thing, and that's their gauge for how much oxygen is left in the room.
Mhm.
When the
because
bird dies?
When the bird
Yeah.
drops, it means that there's not enough oxygen in it. So it's literally a canary in a coal mine,
Yeah.
which is like where that phrase comes from.
Oh,
That's
so then-
upsetting.
the
So
more
then-
you know.
Why don't you just die
Star
instead?
Yeah, exactly. So finally they get in there, and Amy Adams says, "What happens now?" And Forrest Whitaker says,
Don't
Well,
know.
We
I
talked to
don't know.
them.
"They
Does that
arrive."
mean-
Was
Oh, they
the-
arrive.
What,
That's
what I was looking
shit,
for
sorry,
from the
I
trailer.
forgot. I
And
forgot.
so all of a sudden, these two giant, big black, like squid monsters
Yeah.
show up at the other side of, like you said, a giant glass wall.
Like they just show up
Mhm.
immediately?
So
In this mist, they kind of appear
they're
through
like
the
in a
mist.
weird misty, like it's not really
like their
explained.
own atmosphere, probably.
Basically, yeah, I would say that's
Weird.
probably- and
Mhm.
they kind of look like
Hmm.
hands. Like
Ooh.
was always the thing that I kept coming
Yeah,
back to
yeah.
was they
But
just look like,
7 fingers.
because you can't
Huh.
see the top of them, and you can't really quite see the bottom of them,
Yuck.
but they look like giant black, like
Ooh.
tentacly fingers.
Yeah. And you can't
And-
see the top. They're like giant. They're like
Yeah.
Big boys.
15
Yeah.
feet or tall, probably. Yeah.
Yeah, like at least
15 feet or
Or
tall or
tall.
something.
That's, you know,
amazing.
yes.
as we
Think
know,
of the
pe-
largest tree you've seen. Roughly about
Was it
that
tall or
height.
was it 15 feet?
feet?
So anyway, the whole, like, Amy Adams's character's whole mission is to start establishing equivalency between their languages.
So weird.
So she just walks in with like a dry erase board
Oh.
and just writes the word human, and then
Okay.
just points at it and points at herself. Human. This is
Okay.
human.
Mhm.
So then in response to that, the squid monster takes one of its little fingers, which then opens up into a smaller hand and squirts out this like black
Squid ink,
smoke.
basically.
Yeah, squids out this like black smoke that
Huh.
forms into what I only know it, which I like that we drank coffee for this, because the circle that it forms looks like a coffee stain.
Yeah, coffee
Like, if you
drag
put a- if you
sort of
put a
thing.
mug-
Yeah,
on
yeah.
a
Like
table.
you're doing your homework and
Yeah.
you set it down and then it's
And
like
it condensates, and yeah.
Mm.
So it forms this ring, and the idea is that they only have a visual basis of language. They don't have any
Mhm.
sort of, like, what you hear them, the
Sounds.
noise that they make is not actually like
language.
I guess
It's not connected.
It's
like
just
what they
burping.
there's no
Yeah,
correlation
it's-
between what they say and what they write. Meaning,
Oh.
like
Yeah.
there's no pauses or
and if
spaces.
there is,
yeah.
then we're not smart enough to know
Understand.
it anyway.
yeah,
I
yeah,
see.
like we don't understand actually what
Mhm.
whales say if they sing. Like
yeah.
that sort of thing.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I'm pretty sure they're like wet ass pussy.
yeah, I mean, with
that's exactly what they're saying.
that
Yeah, that's
only
what
makes
whales sing,
sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
What
Wet
the
ass
fuck,
pussy.
Will?
That's if
Yeah.
I was to guess, you
Yeah.
know,
Probably, yeah.
in
Makes
my
sense.
scientific opinion.
Yeah. I'm
So
a whaleologist.
is it? I don't remember if it's the first time that they go in that Amy Adams's character decides to take off her.
No, it's the
Hazmat?
second time.
Are you
Or
sure?
The second, yeah, it's not right then. So
Okay.
they kind of like that's the he does the
'Cause
alien does the
they
thing, and
have
then it kind
the
of skip
symbol.
aheads.
Yeah,
back
where
there,
they're
and
still
they're like-
trying to do the same thing.
Yeah, well, they're
not
getting
sure if
off-
they're getting it. Like,
Yeah,
Hmm.
and she
they're
finally
taking
is
off their
like,
suits back at
"Screw
the
it."
site, and Ian like pukes, and they're all kind of just like, I can't believe we just like
We just
interacted
fought
with
Because he's in
aliens.
shock.
Yeah,
And
basically.
there's
Interesting.
this is the great scene. So basically, it's kind of like the colonel is like what why is it so simple? Like we have to know why they're here. And then basically,
and why are we making this so complicated?
yeah, Amy Adams like, okay, here. And she goes up to this whiteboard, she erases a bit, she writes, "What is your purpose on Earth?" ? And she's like, this is where you want to get to, right? And then she kind of goes over basically the basics
She like
of
breaks
English.
down how a sentence is formed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like basically all the steps you have to get to that sentence is like,
so like
years of work, basically.
in the question, what is your purpose on Earth? You have to know what Earth is. You have to know what a purpose is. You have to know how the word what functions in a question. You have to know that you have to know that you're
That's so
asking a
interesting
question.
because like to us it's just like, well, yeah, it is what we all know it to be, but yeah, you can't. It's like teaching a
you
dog.
never once question a question.
Mhm.
Sure.
You know what a question is.
You know that it's a question.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And this is
Yeah,
like
just seeing the word what and even the symbol for a question mark, they're not going to know.
you've probably never once thought like, I don't know what this person is trying to do.
Yeah. And then at the end of it, this is like probably the best part of the line. It's like,
Interesting.
and then once we've gotten here, we have to establish enough knowledge of their language so that we know what
we know what
answer
they're going to
is.
say.
Right.
Yeah. So it is a great kind of breakdown of like, you can't just go in and ask all these complex questions. You've basically got to teach from scratch the entirety of
the
human
language,
like interaction and language. Yeah.
Basically. Yeah. So then once they sort of take off their hazmat suits and sort of more establish that they are the thing that they're trying to explain on the writing, like this is what I've written down and this is what it means. They start to like they create like an algorithm and like a software that every time they take a picture of the thing that the aliens put on the glass, it creates like they are able to create like it's super hard to explain.
Scan of it,
it's a scan of it, but then it analyzes like here's a space in the line, here's a part where the line kind of flares out to one side, and they've
all been different.
And
their
yeah,
responses?
so they start realizing that they're unique. Basically, every time the humans show them something new, they'll put a new one out and be like, okay, this is that thing.
Yeah, and so these symbols are like whole sentences, basically, and they go through a montage of basically they're starting to understand, like they're trying to correlate words and they're starting to communicate just a bit more of what's going on.
So while this is all happening, while America's team is getting progress made, America's
and how much time has
base-
passed?
Several months, I think.
Yeah, it's
Like,
hard to say, but it's like quite a while.
At one point, I don't know what specific point, but I know at one point they're talking about like 8 months later, and like where they're because they have to go through almost the entire like human like in the entire English language basically.
But yeah, like what the hell has everybody else been doing, and like has life gone on?
This is what I'm getting to. So
I know
while America is doing this, America is also in contact with the teams that are at each of the other pods. China and Russia, I think, are the two that have like they're being really like shady about their things, but it's discovered by an intelligence like sort of reconnaissance thing that China is communicating with their. This is like one of my favorite parts of the movie, by the way, Will. China is so everyone has decided to communicate with their own heptapods differently. So
in different ways, yeah.
So in different ways. So when they get intel from China, it turns out that China is learning how to communicate with their heptapods by teaching them how to play chess.
No, it's mahjong.
Mahjong. Sorry.
Yeah.
But she uses chess as the example. So the idea is you play mahjong against someone. You play any game against someone, right? Like in general sense. But what you've done inadvertently by using competition as your language, you've only taught them how to communicate through a means that your ultimate goal is to defeat that thing.
Yeah.
Oh.
So
Uh-oh.
so there's a really great line where she says, if you taught
Yeah, she's
someone
kind
how
of
to
like, what if I
speak,
taught? Yeah,
if I
we were
taught you how
teaching
to
through
speak,
chess, everything is
or if I
everything's made through moves and counter moves. If all I ever gave you was a nail,
everything
and then
is
the
a
colonel
hammer.
goes, everything's a hammer. Yeah,
Yeah. So the idea is that if you teach
I think you mean the reverse.
language,
If the only thing I gave you was a hammer, then everything would be a nail.
yes,
yeah,
that
sorry,
was it.
that was
Okay.
we might have had.
I'm
going to
blame the rum on that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
But
Mhm.
yeah. So the
Idiots.
idea is if you teach something without language to communicate only through competition, then every time you communicate with it, it will be trying to outsmart you and
Oh,
be trying to
shit.
defeat you.
yeah.
Which is then raising tensions with everyone else's heptapods and
Everyone's trying to
team.
communicate, right? And
Everyone's trying to
All
figure out
around the
why
world,
they're
yeah.
there.
everybody else has it's been like 8 months. Some people have made some progress. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is really where the whole like looting and rioting thing starts to really
Ooh.
take effect. Like governments
I
are
kinda
declaring
wanna-
martial law.
I want to say this quote.
Yeah,
or
go for
like
it.
So during this montage of like basically it's kind of monologued by Ian. He's talking about how the progress is going, how other countries have been sharing their info, and how they've made steps in progress by working together. But he talks about like there's no discernible reason why they parked where they parked. The most plausible theory is that all the places they parked have the lowest incident of lightning strikes. But there are exceptions. And he said the next most plausible theory is that Sheena Easton had a hit song at each of these sites in 1980. So we really don't know.
That's funny.
Like the idea is that they are completely random and like that none of the locations have anything in common.
Yeah.
So
which
there's
makes it
one in
harder
the
to-
States. Is it relatively so all over the place, or is like there two
so
in
like
China?
there's
or
like one in China, Russia, Northern Africa, I think has one.
Mhm.
There's one in Europe somewhere.
Greenland. I think, yeah.
Montana.
Mhm.
I feel
Canada
like they
doesn't
just
get one,
what the fuck?
right? I feel like we
right
would have
over
That's because-
Northumberland.
Yeah,
That's
we would have.
What the
I would have
hell?
had this movie figured out I would have had this movie done in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Forrest, listen. It's
oh
this.
man.
You gotta shut everything down.
Would you teach them?
You would
loop
teach
pedal?
them through music.
Yeah. Oh, wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah.
That'd be so cool.
Oh, think
Oh.
of the lyrics that they could make.
Imagine all the people sharing all the world.
Yes, but in
Shut up!
circular language.
Shut
Yeah.
up, Will.
So anyway, where are okay? So yeah,
So-
So
Yeah,
that
so-
everyone's mad at China.
Something we forgot. Well, not forgot, but like so. In one of these sessions, after like Louise takes off her hazmat suit,
oh
and
yes,
she
okay, I
puts
know
her
what you mean.
hand up, and the alien also kind of mimics her and puts
That's
their
Like
hand up.
gently or aggressively?
Yeah.
Was it aggressively?
It like
No.
it kind of smashes up,
Kinda,
but it
yeah.
doesn't break
Little
the
bit.
glass or anything.
He
but-
just
No,
doesn't
no.
know. He's just like,
But there's-
Hi.
there's
hi.
there's sort of a
That's
connection
so
there,
funny.
and after that point, she's getting a little bit
Oh yeah, she starts
tired,
having like
and she's
these-
starting hallucinations of them sometimes.
She well,
in
she's
her
so she's having. First of all, she's having like weird flashbacks of
To her daughter.
kid. Yeah,
How much
Of the
time
kid,
has
like-
passed?
We
we're
don't know
talking.
yet.
We don't really know. It's
Yeah.
like we only know that there's like almost a whole year at one point.
Mhm.
Hey.
It's really frustrating, but it makes sense at the end. So
Yes.
then
Her
So then-
daughter's in with them.
So the
Ow.
yeah, she's the alien.
Yeah.
So what Will is referring to is that she starts are you referring to the dreams that she's having?
Yeah, she also starts having
that's
dreams.
such a weird
yeah.
moment. So it's like she like has like a weird flashback or whatever, and then she wakes up and she looks over and Ian is there and he asks her if she's dreaming in their language.
Mhm.
Because this is the idea, right? That your language determines how you think. So when you learn another country's language, like if you learn another language, it changes how you think.
Are you people bilingual at all?
I am
No.
Anishinaabe, so I took a bit of it in school, but not enough to to do like
Dream
whole
in it?
sentences. Definitely not enough to dream in it.
Hmm.
Try as I may.
Interesting. I've never even thought of that before.
So yeah, he has this moment where he's like, "Are you dreaming in their language?" And she's like, "I'm having these weird like moments or whatever." And then she turns away from him and looks at someone else and says, "But I don't think that that's affecting my ability to complete this mission." And when it cuts to the person she's talking to, it's just the fucking heptapod
Yeah, it's
standing
really creepy.
there looking at her.
Yeah.
And it's just like, whoa. Like,
What?
It's true. Yeah.
Where
yeah,
are they?
So she's
Well,
having
it's like a dream.
She's still
Yeah.
having.
She's still dreaming?
Dreaming. Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically. So that's like a really weird, like,
It is. Yeah.
super
I wanna
almost jump
see
scare
that.
moment.
It is. It's like a jump scare. When I first saw it, I was like, "Whoa, what
Yeah,
the fuck?
well,
Like,
and
what's going on?"
I'm pretty sure I sat like almost front row when I saw it for the first time.
Oh yeah, I saw
so,
it in theaters as well.
Front row.
Yeah,
Woo.
basically.
Did you do that by choice?
No.
Okay.
Well, I mean, when I
Okay.
say front row, I mean like in a Cineplex theater. There's like the like
Front row.
hallway at the front, just before the like
Yeah.
real front
Yeah.
section. Yeah,
The
anyway.
shitbox one.
it wasn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't like when I saw Cloverfield and I was literally at the front row and I had to look up like this.
Yeah.
At
Yeah.
found footage
Those chairs-
style film. Which, if you know anything about found footage, it's kind of like this. I'm
Yeah.
shaking the camera for
You know-
anyone
Oh,
listening.
man.
I mean, I did front row for Gravity, and that
Oh my
fucking
God.
freaked me the fuck out.
I haven't seen
don't
it,
know
but
what
I
that
know
is.
enough about it to be like, no.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Well, one
back
thing
to-
I want to make kind of a significant point, because
Yes.
it'll come back later, is
Yes,
that
it
one of the
will.
memories that happens with Louise is having memories of Hannah, and as a little girl, she's like drawing pictures of animals, and she's like, "Hey, here's my new TV show, Mommy. It's Mommy and Daddy Speak to Animals," and it's kind of like it's kind of this weird it's a recurring memory that keeps coming up for her. So I'll just drop that
yes,
right there.
yes. The
Yeah.
Wait,
recurring
what?
memory thing
That she's
is,
got
like,
a
super
TV
significance.
show with animals?
Well, like, yeah, her daughter's like
Her daughter
drawing
like
a
makes
card.
a thing where it's like, mommy talks to animals, and one of like she's got like a bunch of little clay
Yeah.
sculptures
Just
of
little- yeah.
animals, and one of them
That's
happens
a
to look suspicious.
No, it's not. They don't show anything yet.
Are
at
you
that
sure?
point.
I could have
No, no,
already
they just
assumed
kind of-
that she makes
Nope.
the freaking alien.
Well, yeah, because she's like dreaming about the aliens.
It's a
right?
dream.
Like,
You know, but it doesn't show that yet.
Okay,
okay.
but-
It kind of shows just the animal clay animals. Yeah.
So anyway,
I thought she was drawing.
So they
It's
finally, so months and months and months go by, and they finally get to, and like the whole China thing is already, because they're super not trustful of their heptapods or whatever. So they're kind of like shying away from the rest of the intelligence community, and so they finally.
So they
get
don't
to-
trust their heptapods, and they're not communicating with the rest of the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically,
Idiots.
they're trying to like basically shut everything because they're like, oh, the rest of the world is gonna like fall prey to these things and they're
Yeah.
gonna be in a trap. So months and months and months go by, and
Stupid.
Louise and Ian finally get to the point where they're able to ask, "Why are you here?"
Oh,
Yes, we have finally reached it, and the
We've got
aliens
it.
in response send out one of these things, and thanks to the software, they're able to translate it to 2 words.
oh,
And Will, do you remember the 2 words?
Yes, the 2 words are use weapon.
okay.
Now imagine an entire country that is already not trustful of their.
oh
Of
shit.
anyone.
So it turns out that soldiers on the
Shit.
base are not trustful in how their superiors are handling this. So it ends up getting leaked that America's heptapods have come up with this response.
Oh God.
So it starts spooking the rest of the
Yeah. And-
countries.
They say previous to this that this general in China, they call him the domino because whatever he does, 5 other
Oh.
countries will follow suit.
Right,
So
because they have like an
China
axis of
Shuts down their site and gives the aliens the ultimatum of leaving.
yes, and then
leaving in
Russia
24
does the
hours,
same thing.
or they'll attack.
Yeah, basically.
Mhm.
And there's like an
No.
argument that happens in their like debriefing room between
Damn it.
between Amy Adams and Forrest Whitaker, where she's like, we don't know that they know. We don't
What
know that
weapon
they
means.
know what they are saying. Like, we
Mhm.
don't know that they don't see the word weapon as like tool or
Yeah.
key or like some other sort of utility kind of thing, if that makes
Mhm.
sense. So like, yeah, I think in the original it's like they don't know if the word is use or offer or
Well, also, like, yeah, it doesn't make sense because, like, it's been however, like a year or whatever,
yeah,
and the aliens have been patient enough to at least communicate
yeah.
to
And
some
they're-
capacity. So
you
it
know,
doesn't
they're
make
trying to play
sense.
ball.
Yeah, it's not. It doesn't seem like, oh fuck, we got to rush them now.
Yeah.
Now that we figured out what they're
So
saying,
this
like
is
that
like-
doesn't even make sense.
So this next part is, and Will, you probably share my sentiment on this.
Yeah.
The dumbest part of
Ah,
the entire.
so scary.
The
I was not
dumbest
looking
part.
at the screen when you
Which
did
part
that.
are you talking about?
So Amy Adams and Jeremy Renner
Yeah.
go off into the pod by themselves.
Yeah, they sneak on to there.
Unbeknownst, they just drive a
How
truck
could they possibly?
over and operate the scissor lift themselves. I don't
They
know.
can't.
It's a fucking
so
movie.
after this used weapon and all the sites shut down, they're like, okay, we're not going to go up
Everyone's site
yet.
shut down.
We're going to wait.
Most these
people,
5 or
yeah.
6 countries, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But they're deciding like they're not going to go into a session.
We're
yet.
not going to obey protocol, basically.
Yeah, we're like
We're going to
yeah,
sneak off and we're going to do
Yeah.
this. Unbeknownst to them, their luggage happens to be loaded with explosives
by
placed
some rogue
in their shit
soldiers.
by rogue soldiers who don't
Uh-oh.
believe that the aliens are there for peaceful purposes. So there's
Mhm.
there's this really stupid subplot where it's like this one soldier's like, baby, no, like it's gonna be okay. Like I
Oh,
know
yeah.
you're watching the news and stuff, but it's gonna be really okay. And you can hear on the other end, like, but honey, they're saying on the news that all these things are happening. And I was just like, shut up.
I know
Please.
this guy's
like
just
this
like
is typical like
American
and
soldier.
typical, yeah, like you had to have this in
Um,
America, basically. But
Come
anyway,
on, guys.
so they go in and it's C4 if that matters. But they try and
I've heard of that on Metal Gear Solid, so I know
There
what
you
we're
go.
talking about.
Okay.
there it is.
It's a bomb.
So they try and communicate, and I guess the heptapods, like I got the impression that they were aware that the explosion was going to happen.
Yeah, that's kind of weird. They kind of knew.
They kind of know. So like there's this
Yeah,
moment
they
where
know.
there's this moment
Oh
where they're
yes,
starting
of
to
course they
communicate.
know, and we'll get to that. Why they would know?
Yes, we will get to that. But all of a sudden,
Yeah.
the heptapods spray like thousands upon thousands of these little circles that are these
Mhm.
words. And Jeremy Renner picks it up in the scanner, whatever, gets a snapshot of it. And they're like, I don't like what's going on. I don't know.
It's like so complex. It's
Yeah.
like more complex than they've ever.
Oh.
It's
encountered
yeah.
yet.
So it's
yeah.
so imagine like the whole glass wall is covered in these things, whereas before they were only dealing with 1 or 2 words at a time.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden the explosion goes off and
Hmm.
they are ejected from the pod, and
Mhm.
both the aliens like jump away at the same time. And
Oh yeah, we never explained this, but the way they jump away, they move like
they
squids.
fly.
They almost like
They do.
fly.
Yeah, they fly through the
Cool.
air like
Yeah.
like the way that, you know,
Squiddies.
squiddies.
Shroom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
I like
with less liquid sounds, I would
Yeah.
say. But anyway.
Whatever.
So
No.
So Louise, she wakes up back in the camp. She's had like a mild concussion. And the government has issued a strike on the alien ship because they've had this thing where because the aliens have suffered this attack, which wasn't handed down from the
didn't-
States,
but
the
it didn't-
government didn't do it, but they
Mhm.
expect that the aliens are going to retaliate. So
Yeah.
they're
Okay.
planning on preemptive strike, and they're like, "Look,
On the ship.
we did what we could. We got to get out of there." All of a sudden, there's another part. Oh, okay. So while they're getting ready to pack up everything, Ian, Jeremy Renner, suddenly has this like eureka moment where he
Mhm.
figures out
Because they're trying to
Eureka.
decode
they're
all
trying
the
to decode
messages
this,
that was sent
this
to them.
thousands
Yeah.
of, and he
Mhm.
realizes that there's like a whole array of
Oh, that
words,
guy.
but there's a whole array of words, but one word that keeps showing up in all of the whole thing is time.
Time.
And that's really important. He can't figure out why. But they're like, okay, well, whatever the reason it is, it doesn't matter because because the situation has gotten so bad now that Russia has apparently executed one of their own in order to keep their own shit from leaking. And so they're like, look, like everything's about to go to hell. In a handbasket.
So we're backing up. We're getting out of here.
We're getting out of here before everything goes to shit. Louise has this like vision, and do the pods raise up higher by this point, or does that come later?
Yeah, so the thing is, after the explosion,
they levitate.
The pods go high enough that they can't get into them anymore.
Oh no!
But then Louise has this vision of this mini pod touching down to Earth. It's like a dream.
It's like a little pizza plate.
Okay.
Yeah, shows up on the ground.
Pizza plate.
And so she sneaks out.
I want pizza.
Right? This part I didn't actually like. Does it actually happen? Or does she just
so she
dream
sneaks
it
out.
happens?
No, she dreams it happens. She like a vision of it, sort of, and then she
actually goes out there.
But she runs out in the hazmat suit, or no, not even in hazmat suit.
Yeah,
just runs out there
and the pod,
like steals a truck, drives in, and then the little mini pod, what she saw, does come down, and she steps inside and gets like brought to the ship.
But when she goes in the ship this time, she's on the other side of the glass.
Wait, what?
So now she's in the smoke with all the
because the mini pod just brought her into this.
So the idea is that only she can go, and like so it goes up, and she's like,
now
it's
we
like
didn't
we didn't
say this yet, but they have Ian names these two aliens.
Oh yes, which is why the drink was originally called this.
Yeah, I originally called this drink Abbott and Costello.
Abbott
and Costello. It's the
Ian
nicknames for the two.
Yeah, two aliens. He
the
calls
two
them
aliens,
that,
Abbott,
which is it's a reference because for the movie itself, because Abbott and Costello, or have you heard of them, Alenka?
This sounds kind of familiar.
They're like old timey film comedic duo.
Yeah,
kind of like the Three Stooges in a way. But they have a very famous.
Are they the ones with like the Who? Not the Who, but like the
Who's on First?
Who's on First? Yeah.
Yeah. So that's their famous thing about miscommunication during a baseball game. So that's the reference to this movie is communication.
When Louise is in this thing, she's then approached by Abbott, which I don't.
How do they know the difference?
This was my thought. I was like, how the fuck do you know that that's Abbott and not Costello? But anyway,
Abbott's got a little scar on his one fucking weird finger thing.
Does he?
I don't know.
You don't know.
He was wearing gold rings on his little tentacles. But then he's
got a big A ring.
She has
fucking
this,
bling bling.
She has this moment where she looks up, because when you're in the room that they were in originally, you can't see the tops of the aliens.
Now she can see the top of the tree,
where she can see the top of the tree, and it's like this giant, like football shaped brain, and it's like a moment where it kind of looks like they kind of framed it like she was looking at his penis.
Oh, what the fuck?
It's kind of like no way. Like it's kind of like if the dude walked into the room and he was naked, like oh wow, I get to see this for the first time. Like this is a very intimate moment. And so she says to him, where's Costello?
She says, I can see your penis.
I can see your penis brain. And so she says, where's Costello? And he puts out the things. And for some reason, all of a sudden she can
she knows?
decode it in her mind.
Well, I think it's because they've been studying it. It's weird.
Yeah,
so you either look at it like, oh, she can suddenly understand it, she doesn't realize it, or because it's been like a year of studying this language, she can actually kind of understand the language.
Maybe it's symbols she's kind of seen before.
The problem I would say with this movie is that they don't really establish enough how much time goes by, which I think Alenka would be your problem with watching this movie again, is just like how long have I been here? So he puts out the two or three things that says and this is why I said when I
is there subtitles or something, or does she talk out loud?
This is why I thought it was weird is Costello is death process.
Death process?
So when which means that he's dying. Because of the explosion.
Because of the explosion, yeah.
And so she's like, I'm so sorry. I really we're trying, we're doing all this stuff, and they have this moment where it's like she's like really desperate. She's like, I'm at the end of my rope here, and he says something to the effect of, and maybe you have the actual quote, Will, but it's like basically the language is the weapon.
Our language is the weapon, the tool that we're offering.
And he says like 3,000 years from now, you will come to us and help us, or you will
We
come
will
to us
need
and
humanity's help.
we will you will demand our help, and we are trading in return, or something like
and
that.
she starts getting again these flashbacks of her daughter in the middle of this, and then she goes, she kind of looks at the alien, she goes, I don't understand. Who is this child?
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Who
What?
is this child?
Yeah.
That
Huh?
She doesn't know who this child is.
And
I don't
there's a
understand.
very specific point that I think we missed.
I'm so
Will.
confused.
Yeah,
Let me explain this point first. They have one of the flashbacks, and I don't know if it's that flashback.
Is it the
or it's one
future?
before.
Has she been seeing the future?
So she asks what a palindrome is,
Which
and
is
it's like, and so she's like, your
Is that a
name, for
music
example.
thing?
No, it's a word
mind.
thing. So
I know.
for example, so the daughter's name is Hannah, HANNAH.
Yeah.
It means it can be spelled forwards and backwards, and if you start from the middle, you can end up at the same thing on either side.
Mhm.
Okay, so the whole time, the language that they've been doing has been presented in a circular fashion, happening at the same time in both directions until it gets to the end. When we read
Mhm.
our language, it goes from the beginning to the end because we perceive it in a linear fashion.
Mhm.
Okay.
When you learn the Heptapod's language, you are learning both things at exactly the same time, and therefore you are perceiving time in both directions at the same time.
Mhm.
And so it is then revealed,
Okay.
which I believe you figured out.
Yeah.
She was
Is that
seeing
when
the
you learn-
future.
She was
When you learn the language, you
When you learn the
perceive
language-
time non-linearly.
yeah.
Yeah.
When you read the Heptapod language, you begin to perceive time in a non-linear fashion, which means that you
How
can
though?
see
I don't
almost.
understand.
It's not really explained.
So
Like-
it's
See
not
the
like
past,
she's
present, and
it's
the
not-
future,
yeah,
basically?
It's not like she's flashing back. It's like she's living all
It's
these
almost like
moments
she's
at the same
remembering.
time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's like remembering something that
The
hasn't happened
future.
yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically.
Because she's simultaneously
What?
living it and can perceive
So
it
it's
that way.
gonna happen.
Yeah.
So she's never had a kid yet.
No.
No.
So then,
she
which
hasn't
is why-
had a baby daddy yet.
so
not yet.
So yeah, Costello explains that they were
Is
sent
it
to
what's
give
his
humans
nuts?
their language, so that they may help the aliens in 3,000 years' time. 18
Mhm.
months into the future, from the moment that she learns this revelation, her and General what was his name?
Shang?
General Shang meet face to face at a UN meeting, or
And
like
is he
it's
the
like it's like a
Chinese
gala
guy?
event. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
And-
Yeah.
and she's like overlooking this balcony, and it's like this super weird, like, how the hell did we get here moment. And she turns, and he's standing there, and he's like, I just want to thank you, like, you're the reason that we're all here. If you hadn't said to me what you said, then like we would have headed down a completely different path. And meanwhile, while this is happening, she realizes that she's the one that ends up having to then turn around and this is like where it gets real complicated at the climax. She's like, I'm the one that's going to convince General Shang to not attack his heptapod.
Huh?
And so she like sneaks back on base, grabs one of their like huge like military cell phones
Satellite
that are
phones,
like
yeah.
this fucking big, and
Illegally, like
Yeah,
the
and-
CIA
and
now
the
is
s-
after her.
yeah,
They're
so
trying to
they're
like the
like hunting
CIA
her
guy.
through the thing.
Whoa.
And she ends
Yeah.
up like barricading herself inside this
Yeah.
like little
And this like
chamber.
back and forth scene, this is what I'm talking about. This is how we know it's like she's kind of living both moments
So
at
she
the
en-
same time.
Yeah, so she's
Weird.
calling. So she calls General Shang on his personal phone, which 18 months into the future, General Shang gives her that number.
What the fuck?
So then she, in the present time,
So
types that number
weird.
into her phone.
Yeah. And he whispers what she said to him, which is his
Shut up.
dying wife's last words to him.
Which
Shut the
were
fuck up.
did you
No one
look it
else
up?
would know.
Did you look it up, Will?
No, I actually did
So
not know.
the line is it's a famous line, and it's war does not make victors, only widows.
Mm.
And those were the general's wife's dying words, and he says it to her 18 months into the future, and she says it to him 18 months into the past, which is our present.
Weird.
Mm.
And
Really odd.
then the news breaks out that China has decided to
Retracted.
stand their military down, and all of the vessels start to levitate off the ground, and they like, this was the part that I thought was really weird, is the way that they like, I thought it was an interesting visual choice, is that they like dissolve kind of.
Yeah,
But
they do. They
it
kind
was
of,
like it was like
yeah.
just kind of a weird, unique way to say that they basically traveled back to their own time.
yeah, that's what
Because the
I
idea is that
perceived
the
it as,
aliens
yeah.
have traveled back in time from 3,000 years ago, or 3,000 years into the future.
It's weird. Yeah, it's like they traveled, but it's the way they perceive it. So it's kind of like they just appear. It's
But
not
this-
like a weird, like we're using like time hole loops. It's literally,
it's not like a
time warps.
wormhole opens up
No,
and they
it's
just
literally
step into
just
it.
like I dissolved because we were just simultaneously living this.
Well, and
past
that was the
What
thing
the
that
hell?
future.
that was the thing that I really liked about it too, was that the idea is that while all of this is happening, they are receiving the same thing on the other end. So what is happening with us now with the aliens, a very similar thing is happening 3,000 years into the future, where the aliens are giving the
Helping
humans
us?
help.
Yeah.
So the humans are asking the aliens for help 3,000 years from now, and they're getting it at exactly the same time as we give it to them. So it's like it's like a big giant time loop.
Yeah.
It's
So
really
is
hard
it-
to explain.
Oh man, that's so odd. Like, oh, whoa.
So
Is it just that all timelines are existing at the same time, and it's
No,
not so
it's-
much that it's the
it's not all timelines. It's our timeline. I
not
would say.
timelines, but past, present, and future all happen at the same
Simultaneously.
time.
The perception of it is happening. If you learn their
If
language,
you learn their
and
language, you
learn-
can see it
yeah,
for what
which
it
is,
actually is.
Which what Cale said at the beginning is like the thesis of this film is the
Is that
idea
language
that
determines
the
how you
language that
perceive the
you're-
universe?
Yeah.
No way, man. No.
So this is like the most important part, which is not the most important part, but it's an important part when you come
It's
back
kind of
around
the heart
to the
of the
beginning.
film. There's the science and like logic
Yeah.
of the film, but this is like the heart
So
of
so Ian and Louise are standing there
Get
watching
together.
the aliens
They make
leave,
the baby.
and
I know they do.
and basically she asks him like, if
Do you wanna have a baby?
if you saw everything in your life the way that it was going to happen, good or bad, would you then continue to live it out? Because
Well, what would
there
you
is a
do
very-
though? You
Well,
can't just
this is the question,
think
right?
that you're going to change your choices because you don't know the choices that you made to get to that moment in time anyways. So how
Right. So this
like,
is
what
the,
would
this
you
is
just
the debate,
do?
right? Is that if you saw every event in your life as it's going to happen, would you or could you do anything to stop it?
No, you
right?
can't.
And I guess the thesis in this is that no, you can't. But basically, there's like a moment in the future where Ian, like obviously they get together, and
I knew it.
yeah, there you go. And
They make the
and
baby.
there's a moment where he says, "Do you want to make a baby or whatever?" And she
Oh,
says,
he actually
and
says
she
that.
says
he says
but,
that.
but while she's but in even and I think this
That's
is the way
funny.
that I understood it. Will is that in
Nobody
the
presents it
flashback-
that way, do
or
they?
in the in the
Do couples just do that? Do they just hang out one day and be like,
I
"Do you
mean,
want to
I've-
make
I
the
don't know.
baby? Do you want to try making a baby?"
do you want to just
People I
like,
think
do
say
the-
saying
having a baby, right?
Yeah,
Like
you wanna-
they're more like, "Do you want to try having a baby?"
like
No.
some people
Let's
are
try
like,
to
hey,
make one.
let's
You say make one if it's like let's do it now. Like
yeah,
that's what-
let's yeah,
Let's go
like-
make a baby.
like the
Oh,
bed
yeah,
is
yeah,
over
yeah.
there.
You're right. You're right.
You know?
You're right. You're right.
I've got
Anyways.
I've got the oven preheated. You want to make some cookies? Like,
You want to make
but-
some babies?
but
Don't
during
put your
the-
dick in that oven.
but-
Don't.
so no, during
Don't.
that moment when he asks, "Do you want to make a baby?" Basically, the way that they kind of framed it is like she's having this vision of the future while he's asking her this, and it's like
Uh-huh.
she sees all of the events, like the cowboy thing, the helping the daughter with the
Getting
homework,
sick and dying.
the daughter getting
yeah.
sick and dying, the daughter getting mad because her and her dad split up, which was another thing.
Oh.
Yeah.
That we didn't mention near, like closer to the beginning. There's a flashback that she has where the daughter doesn't understand why the parents don't see each other, which is why you never see
Mhm.
the dad
guy.
in any of the flashbacks.
Yeah.
And she's like, well,
And she's
because
yeah.
I told your dad about something that's going to happen that he doesn't like, and it's like something to do with a very rare disease.
Mhm.
And so it turns
Whoa.
out that she in the future will tell him that their
after
that
they
she
have
knows
the daughter.
yeah, that she knows
Ah.
that the daughter is going to get sick and die, and Ian's is like, you did this
Weird.
and didn't say anything, and she's like, no,
Yeah.
like this is how it's going to happen.
Mhm.
There's nothing. we
Yeah,
can do
but
to stop
also
it.
like I guess I could understand why he would be mad, because he's like, if you knew it was going to happen, you could have not pursued me, and then I wouldn't have had to feel this sort of like sorrow.
It's like it's the idea of what's the amor fati is the like philosophical term for it, but it's like love of fate. And the idea is that so in amor fati the scenario is you get to the afterlife at the end of your life, you see every single day of your life, and then you get to the end, and when you're at the end, Satan shows up and he's like, guess what, for your punishment for the rest of eternity, you get to go back and live exactly the events that happened in your life exactly the way that they happened, and nothing you do can change that. And amor fati is the choice to say, hey, sounds good, I'll see you the next time I come around. And it's like,
but they don't have the choice, do they?
Well, the idea is that they don't have the choice. Yeah. Like Amy Adams's character sees all of these things happening and doesn't do anything to stop them.
Right.
Because in her mind that there's nothing that you can do to stop them, because they're happening as she sees them. So she realizes that she's having a vision, but it's also like she's living the moment as it happens, because the idea is that all of time is happening at the same time. Yeah. If that makes any sense. Yeah. And so when he says, like, she asks him while they're standing there watching this thing leave, she says, like, if you knew everything that was going to happen, would you, like, good or bad, would you do it anyway?
Okay.
And he says yes. And they have this.
So then he can't be mad at her, actually.
Well, yeah, I guess not. But like, but
I
suppose I remember that conversation.
Yeah. No, but I suppose she could have been like, okay, cool. So this is what I'm seeing. And you good?
Yeah. And the really weird, like, thing
for a linguist specialist, she's pretty bad at communication.
Yeah, right. So the thing that really, like, that I never even noticed until I just read it off the synopsis, thanks IMDb, is that when they hug at the end, she, like, has this moment where she, like, just hug and they're pregnant.
Just induction.
like there was an Outcast music video that was like that, where Andre 3000 kisses a girl and just her belly forms.
That's how it works.
Yeah. But anyway, so they're hugging, and she looks off into the distance over his shoulder, and she says, I forgot what it was like to be held by you. And they've never, like, been romantic.
And they don't cut to him going like,
bitch, what?
What the fuck?
Oh, yeah.
About? Yeah. Yeah. And that's weird. That's like basically how it ends.
Yeah.
Like, so questions?
That was, well, yeah, of course. First of all, that seems super short.
Yeah,
we
got through it pretty well. I mean, Will and I are kind of on the same level when it comes to most movies, I think. Yeah.
It's like the cousin factor.
Yeah, it's that family gene. But it's there's obviously a lot more theoretical jargon that they kind of fill certain scenes with, and like there's a lot of subplot with, like, the guy sitting in the chair that's communicating with all the other countries, and, like,
sure,
you know, he has moments where it's like, okay, this country is doing this to communicate with and everyone's being cooperative except for these, like, 4 or 5 countries, and
China and Russia.
But, like,
I mean, it's a 2-hour movie, but, like, you're right, it, like, there's just beats where it seems like it goes by really fast, because it's like this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens, basically.
Well, it felt like right off the bat, the movie gets into it pretty quick.
It's sort of ironic that we're talking about a movie where it seems like time is hard to perceive while you're watching it.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
I don't like that. I wish.
On that note, how long have we been talking about the movie so far?
1 hour and 20.
There you go.
Yeah, that's
See,
crazy.
We've actually been talking about it longer than it feels.
Yeah,
well,
and
I don't know.
Say, well, I mean, I would say personally that it felt like, I would agree with you that we did kind of get to the end fast, but it's also, I feel like it was really easy to say what was happening so succinctly. We arrived
to the conclusion.
Cut.
You got it.
Real quick.
Cut to credits.
Well, there was definitely halfway through the point where I was like, oh, we always take a break so that everybody can refresh the beverages. And I was like, Kale's
we
been
didn't
out
take
of
a
a
break this
beverage
time.
for a long time. I know. And I was so surprised because my internet was so shitty earlier that I was like, "Ugh, do we even risk it? I don't know.
Yeah,
We
I'm
got
glad
it,
that we
man.
didn't though, because like I got really excited, like I was watching the movie again.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah, I
Well, yeah.
feel
Well,
like
Alenka, how many weird
tentacles.
alien penises do you give this
Come on.
movie?
Like, does it at
There
least sound
was
engaging?
Yeah, this is the thing though. I feel like I have a lot of questions about it, and I think
Mhm.
it was explained very well. However, I feel like for me to adequately grasp this film, I need to watch it.
Definitely,
For me to like,
definitely, for you to squid
Yeah.
your way through the
yeah.
Yeah.
through the plot. Do you have
Ow.
questions that you think could be?
Mostly, it would be us to pontificate upon the theory of time.
I mean, yeah,
Well, yeah, they don't really go too much into like timelines thing. It's really just the basics of you learn this alien language.
I
you
don't
perceive
understand
time in a
how-
nonlinear fashion.
how that could be though. Like how, okay, think of it like Chinese writing or Japanese
Yeah.
writing or Korean writings, all symbols
Yeah, yeah.
that are multiple, I believe, syllables.
Yeah,
typically?
right?
I'm onto the
Oh,
straight.
baby. I think
Oh,
so.
there you go.
Perhaps not syllables, but like they are portions of, I think, a word typically. Like two characters beside each other will be one word. And that
Mhm.
goes in a downwards line.
Yeah.
It goes from up and down. So that just can't be correct though at all, actually, because also Japanese, they read from left to right, not right to left, which is,
Yeah,
I
so-
understand is still linear. However, then they should be able to see which everybody
No.
can see the past.
Human language in general is still linear.
Yes,
It's
yeah.
more or less like
because you're
Yeah.
still
I'm
you still
so
have a beginning, a middle, and an
confused.
end.
like we're not
And no
talking
matter-
real life.
and no matter-
like if
yeah.
you just started writing things from the inside out, it doesn't mean that you're going to
And no
travel back
matter
in time
how-
somehow.
I
Yeah, it
understand.
is.
No, I know, but I just want to understand more about like how the language is perceived, I guess. Like what do you I'm so stuck
Well,
in
we
this
can't really
human
explain
life.
that either.
Yeah,
I can't even understand.
like the closest we could get to it is like imagine your eyes both going in different directions around the outside of this
Okay.
Like
thing.
Forrest Whitaker.
Okay, that actually makes a lot more sense. It's like if I could see,
It was all
It
a
would be
test,
like
and he knew
having-
it from the
it
beginning.
would,
Yeah.
it would be like having eyes forward, backward, and
Forrest
on both
Whitaker,
sides.
if for some
Probably.
reason you end up hearing this, I am a huge fan and all the love and respect to you in the world.
But get that eye fixed.
I don't know.
Oh,
I
God.
think it's endearing.
No, it's his
Yeah.
it's
That's what
signature.
everybody
It's his signature
says.
for
It's
sure.
like,
Yeah.
oh, they've got some weird, not weird. They've got
No.
like a
Well, and if he did it,
non-symmetrical
you know that people
face.
would
How
say,
endearing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
people would say, "Oh, he did it just to fit a standard or whatever." And like also this late in his fucking career, like
You don't
there's
care.
no way. There's
He's
no
going to
way.
come out at 70 with a new eye, and you're like, what? Why?
He's not doing that.
But it can like see through walls and shit.
Yeah. Listen,
It can
I like
perceive
this
the alien
analogy
language. No.
of the sight thing. Like
Yeah.
if we could, I guess it would also be, I guess you could say it'd be like being able to hear every frequency as well.
Kind of, yeah.
Honestly, it's probably similar to it's probably like, you know, how people have like photographic memories.
No. I'm just kidding, yeah.
People have
Which
photographic
blows my
memories.
mind.
Exactly. Like it's probably something like that where it's like where you perceive
do you look at
all your
something
memories,
once?
but you can also
Eidetic
perceive
memories,
the future.
Eidetic
Yeah.
memories are scarier than photogenic.
What's that?
Like okay, so eidetic memories, some people who have eidetic memory remember literally everything that has ever happened to them down to every like minuscule detail.
How do you know that?
Because I have watched documentaries and I've done my research on like how they test it.
I think they're lying.
Okay, but like about very like what the like air smelled like, the words that someone said in exactly the order that they said them throughout the entire day. Like,
Which is
like-
so odd because imagine how much trauma you go through in your life.
yeah,
And
actually,
like a
there's an
lot of
episode
people
like,
have the mental like what's it called? It's like a thing the brain will do to help protect them or whatever
Like
that
a
makes them
suppression?
like yes.
or
Yeah.
repression.
The brain will literally
Repression, yeah.
repress these traumatic events in a way that will manifest differently in like the person down
which
the road or whatever.
sadly is not the case for people with eidetic memories.
So what the
Ooh.
fuck happens to them? They just remember
They
everything
remember
and
everything in every
Yeah.
detail as if it was happening like
What?
3 minutes ago.
But
like,
could
a
you
big-
almost argue though, could you argue that because potentially they gone through trauma, which I'm sure everybody to some like childbirth is traumatic, for example, like if they remember every detail of them being born too, it's like a trauma event. For them to remember that would evoke certain potential issues on them emotionally
Yeah.
and mentally.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
could you almost argue that their perception of their memories may be skewed because they've been impacted negatively from the trauma that they are remembering?
The argument could be made, but it's the amount of detail that is in their favor.
They could be fucking liars. They could be
I mean-
liars.
I mean, yes,
True.
this
Yeah.
totally
What's,
could be the case.
impulsive liars
The
are not impulsive,
compulsive.
but chronic
Yeah.
compulsive liars are
Yeah.
so specific
There's-
on their details that you're like, Jesus Christ, that sounds unbelievable, but absolutely, I believe
There's an
you.
episode of House, I think, that they deal with a patient with an eidetic memory, and she's like estranged from her sister or something, and it's like, I remember the fact that at 9:45 with 37 seconds on the clock on this exact day at this exact
No,
time, you
they're
while
lying.
wearing while
They are
wearing
lying.
exactly these things
No.
said this. And
They're
I mean,
lying.
the argument can be made that they are
Yeah.
lying, but
Mhm.
the science is in their favor.
Listen, I can't remember fucking anything at
So,
all.
I'm going to tell a
Like-
story on your podcast, Will and Alenka.
Okay.
And if anyone in my family hears this story, then let's just have a funny moment and then move on. So I'm going to tell the story of the first time that I went to Disney World.
I don't think anyone in our family listens to this.
Probably
podcast,
not.
so.
Let's hope. Let's
Well,
hope
that's
not.
rude.
So anyway, I mean, I listened to it prior to coming on, so like
That's true. That's true.
it's just a snowball effect. Anyway,
Listen to the
so-
later episodes. We really got a hang of it after about
Exactly.
halfway through.
So when I first went to Disney World, we went to this event called the Festival of the Lion King, and basically it's a show in the round, and there are 4 bleachers worth of audience in 4 different directions, and the
Oh, yeah.
cast come out from the 4 corners, and each audience section is a team that is represented by a different animal. So there's a team for the lions, a team for the elephants, a team for the warthogs, and a team for the giraffes. Okay,
Which one were you?
Like medieval times.
kind of like medieval times.
I've never
yeah.
been to medieval times.
Oh my god, you gotta. When COVID's over, you gotta.
I can't wait. I've always wanted to eat a chicken leg. Just
Oh, the corn soup is delicious. Anyway,
Mhm.
so there's like one host or cast member for each section, and the host takes one audience member, usually a child,
it was you.
onto the floor
It
to
was you.
demonstrate. I'm getting there to demonstrate
like guessing.
the signature, like they have they strike a pose and they make a sound, and the whole idea is that like it's like, let's hear it for the lions, and then all the people in the lion section are like roar, like, and then it's
Ugh,
like, let's hear
so
it for the
campy.
elephants, and well, it's a kids thing, man, come on.
Okay.
And so like the elephants, they have like the trunk or whatever, and they
Yeah,
make like
yeah,
a little trumpet
classic.
sound. Let's hear it for the warthogs, and they have their little tusks, and they make snorting sounds. Do you know what sound a giraffe makes, Alenka?
I have no fucking idea. And I knew you got the
Turns
shit
out-
end of the stick.
Turns out in the year 2000, neither did I.
No.
So
They didn't tell you?
they did not tell me. And so when I got
I thought
okay,
they were
and this is
supposed
the
to.
part where my family and I are going to diverge, because they tell this story differently, and for all I
Okay.
know, their event of their version of this is the way that it actually happened.
Accurate.
Here's my version. Okay.
Uh-huh.
I went up with these 4 other kids, and my host, who was a woman probably about your age, who is like, and Cale from Canada is gonna show us what sound a giraffe makes, without any warning, sticks the mic into my face, and I just go like I choke. And there's like a bit of mild, like kind of nervous laughter from the audience, and she turns around and she's like, "Let me guess, you don't know what sound a giraffe makes." And then everyone laughs because they don't know either, right? And I'm just like, no, like, and she's like, "Well, it turns out that when I took this job, I didn't know either, and I had to look it up, and it turns out, and this is actually a fact, that giraffes are distant relatives of sheep and goats." And so when giraffes vocalize, it sounds like the bleating of a sheep or a goat.
Which is,
Giraffe.
You're welcome, listeners. And so when they did it, I don't even know what the fucking, it was something over the head, I think, what the pose was. But then everyone did this lame ass fucking sheep bleating. like they didn't leave home from, Farmville, Indiana to come here and learn that a giraffe makes a sound that they could have heard at their local farm. And so everyone does it. I get sent back to my seat and I am embarrassed. Like I am humiliated. I am crying. I am everything.
Aww.
In fact, I'm pretty sure there's a photo of me, because the only reason that I got picked for this, to be clear, is that my grandmother was with us and she was in a wheelchair. So we got seated at the front row.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow I got picked for that while I was sitting in the front row. There's a picture in one of the family photo albums where I'm face to face with the mascot of Timon from The Lion King. Everyone in my family says that I'm smiling in the photo. I say that I'm crying in the photo.
See, it's your perception of the emotional feeling, though. You have emotional recall of that time.
Yes, to your point, exactly. That I have it in a very particular way in my mind.
Yeah.
That it happened this way, and every single person who was there is like, to this day, is like, nope, that's not how it happened.
Right.
So
because you felt so embarrassed that you're like, there's no way that after that I didn't do this.
So in their perception of the story, if I remember correctly, the host didn't really put me out on blast as much as I remember it. She wasn't like,
as you perceived it,
because
nobody knows. Because nobody knows what sound a giraffe makes. Yeah, they set the kid up.
Let me guess,
for sure.
You're an idiot, and you don't know what a giraffe sounds like.
You don't know what a giraffe sounds like. Yeah,
you fucking idiot.
She's just
idiot.
A bad
stupid
mascot.
Garbage person. What are you like? What are you like? 8 years old? Get out of my face! Like,
you 8-year-old idiot!
Yeah,
fuck.
I do not
learn your
know
animals, ding dong.
Yeah, and then it turned out that the rest of the show was like really lame animatronics of Simba and kind of cool trapeze stuff and like, but then it turned out that each MC has like a song that they're singing because they couldn't make it like in the music industry. So
that's fine.
And that's my retort because I remember that woman embarrassing me. So I'm like, fuck you.
Yeah.
This episode is so short that I'm going to leave that whole story in.
Yeah, do it.
But I mean, it is definitely like human nature to perceive things incorrectly, I think.
Oh, totally.
Or how they're not intended.
Yeah.
Well, we perceive it emotionally. We perceive
sure.
What we think we feel.
Think about all the moments of your life that you remember, and why are they significant? Why do you remember them?
Because
like usually there's some sort of emotional attachment.
An emotional attachment. Yeah.
Now try being Amy Adams's character in Arrival, where you just fucking remember everything because it's happening all at exactly the same time.
I don't think I'd be able to handle that though, and you'd never be able to differentiate. I wouldn't of which time. I guess you were
in that moment.
But technically, they're all happening.
Well, I guess the way that they kind of explain it is that she's like in like a fugue state where she's more like watching it as a memory than it actually happening. Whereas when she's in the moment, she can tell that it's happening there. So like when she's
But
in
that in
the
itself doesn't really make sense because it's all happening at the same time. That would all be the same moment.
I think you just need to watch the movie and then draw your own conclusions
Will's just like, I think
from
you need
it.
to shut up. I think you need to shut up and watch
We
this
can't
movie
explain
because you
why
haven't
or what is
seen
it.
it.
I haven't.
Haven't seen it.
Fuck you, Zach. Every episode.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Will
Yeah,
you,
I mean,
will
I
you
do-
see this having heard the explanation?
Honestly,
Which is
Cale,
a
if it's
good
not
point.
on Netflix.
It is,
It
on,
is
Netflix.
on Netflix.
Oh, it is?
Oh
Yeah.
damn! Somebody hit the air
Okay.
horns.
Okay, actually, I might.
You should.
Well, thanks for coming on the show, Cale.
Yeah, this has been actually really fun.
Yeah.
Actually, super fun.
He was
I-
not expecting
I was-
much, and then
okay, let
he
me-
got
let
blown
me-
away.
He was like, my cousin asked me to do a fucking podcast. And I was like, it's going to be lame.
I've never been on a podcast before, number one. And number two, I was like, oh my God, I hope I remember enough details about this movie, or I hope that I explain it properly without
Mhm.
bogging it down to be like a 5-hour explanation of like shot for shot, line for line
No, that was
Mhm.
good.
of the movie.
How many
Yeah,
pod
we've-
cherries do you think we've popped, Will?
Oh, we've popped so many. I was gonna say we've broken a lot of.
Some podcast
cherries.
studs over here.
Pod
Yeah,
cherries.
yeah.
I know.
Some pod
Yeah.
cherry pops.
We need to keep a list.
Yeah.
You need to
How
have
about
like,
exclusively
Check it
popping
off.
pod
Will,
cherries?
you need like
That's
a you need like a
Oh.
soundboard to plug
Can I
into
pop
your
your pod cherry?
to be like this has been another pod pop. Like
Oh, yes.
there you go.
So I would need a soundboard.
Why
I got
am I
my
not on your
mouth.
team, man?
My
Like,
mouth.
there it is.
Yeah.
Where can our listeners hear you?
Our
Maybe not talk, but sing a little bit.
sing a little
Yeah.
bit. So
Can we listen to you
I'm
on
a singer
Spotify?
songwriter, and I've got music on Spotify, which is probably where you're
Yee.
listening to this podcast.
Oi,
probably.
oi, oi.
So take
Probs.
when you go into Spotify and you listen to this episode, just take the spelling of my name in the title, I assume, and
Yep.
enter it into the search engine. And I'm probably the only person with my name.
Found you.
Hopefully, yeah.
I found you.
I'm looking up and showing everybody the inside of my nose in the photo.
Yep. Yep.
Which I love that photo.
I can
but
confirm.
all the same. Yeah.
So
I've got
his
a few
name's
things
not
on there.
spelt Cale like in the grocery store. It's spelt like
No.
Cale like with a C.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm named after a NASCAR driver, unfortunately.
Yikes.
Oh yeah, I forgot all the
Yeah.
NASCAR stuff. I
Yeah.
remember in my childhood visiting you guys.
Yeah.
You guys are-
Man, if you want to hear some stories about Will coming to visit me, oh boy. Anyway,
Listen to our
that's a
podcast
Patreon
called
that's a
episode.
that's a Patreon
Yeah.
exclusive. No,
Yeah.
but yeah, I've got some music up there, and I've got some music on the way. I'm hearing some
Oi.
final mixes on some singles as we
Woo.
speak. So yeah, probably sometime in a few months from now, you'll be able to hear new music. But be sure to like me on social media, Facebook, Twitter, follow me on YouTube, or subscribe on YouTube, I guess. And yeah, all that good stuff, and you'll be able to know when that stuff is coming. I am so
Woo.
bad at self-promotion, but
That's okay. We'll tag
That was
you.
good.
yeah.
And if you want to follow us, folks, we are on we're on Facebook and Instagram. That's at Haven't Seen a Podcast. We're also on Twitter at haven't_seen_it. Also, and Cale reminded me by mentioning his YouTube, we also have a YouTube that I've
Oh,
never
snap.
mentioned.
Oh shit.
Our YouTube channel is Haven't Seen a Podcast.
Do your
And,
episodes actually end up on
Yeah, and you can
I
listen
am
to the episodes on there
subscribing
as well.
literally this
So
second?
you can literally listen
I
to
don't
us
think I'm subscribed to
anywhere,
us yet.
Hopefully.
I like it. What
I'm
the
pretty
hell?
sure every app you can listen to us. You can also go to our website, haven'tseenapodcast.com. There you'll find all our
Oh, shit, there's a
episodes,
website.
as well as the entire list of movies Alenka hasn't seen, always
Yeah.
being updated, and it's always growing because she lives under a rock.
Literally, probably though.
Yeah.
It's a very well designed rock.
Thank you. And in the way of the Septagons or Decepticons. See, I already forget what the fuck they're called. Like
Heptapods?
that's Heptapods. Decepticons.